if it was a listed company, they could have actually gone to stock market and sold their share. Why go through a hassle? The way they were negotiating on television, it looked like as I was sitting, in a vegetable market and negotiating for something. It's a wider question. First of all, any government which decides to privatize large state-owned enterprises, they should have a clarity of policy and strategy. Now, in case of Pakistan, it appears that the three large loss-making state-owned enterprises include PIA, Pakistan Railways, and Pakistan Steel. Okay, so I think the thinking behind has been that how can we get rid of it, rather than having a thinking that the state should be out of running commercial outfits. So there is, the why privatize part remains problematic to me. So if you are trying to sell, that it is a burden on us, IMF does not want taxpayers' money to go into loss-making enterprises, then it is more of a desperation sale rather than a well-thought-out policy deal. Okay, so we need to understand. Second is that whole of the government, particularly coalition government, they have not been seriously behind this deal. It has been left to just privatization minister and a few people who made, unfortunately, a joke of that. Now I'm coming into, so one is that missing clarity and unity. Second part is a bit micro. The way the deals, it is the incompetence of the Privatization Commission, which is technically an independent auction house, but the government converted it into a ministry. And then, it has been run by generalists, not specialists. So they really did not know how to do it. Let me give some examples. I think the first sheer incompetence has come out where very credible 4-5 bidders of the lot walked out. And one real estate developer remained the sole bidder. Second incompetence is when you have the sole bidder, you cannot have price discovery because nobody is counterbidding. So they should have put it on a hold. They did not even only go ahead, but they went public on television. So, so their lack of experience, their lack of competence was very evident, there. Third is that, informally, I'm told that lots of bidders disagreed with the financial due diligence done by the consultants, that the asset price was not right, the debt numbers were not correct. So just to put some numbers in context, that PIA, it has about 800 billion rupees of loans. So the government said that they will take up 600 billion on their books, 200 will be passed on to the new bidder. Okay, so lots of people disagreed with this number and the way it was depicted. Secondly, government decided to keep first 40% shares to themselves. Then they said, okay, but we will have minority shareholding, but our directors will have say in executive decisions. When you sell things, either you sell or you don't. There's no middle ground here. I think it is basically was a half-hearted attempt handled by people who had no expertise or experience, but mostly they had very little political sport behind it. Now, what will happen now? Several damages are very clear. Number one, PIA will keep on bleeding in losses and in uncertainty. Uncertainty is the worst thing for an organization. I'm told that it's about 550 billion rupees worth of losses, which will come 10 billion almost every month. Now, who will pay the bill? You and I? And why should we pay the bill? Because of sheer incompetence of first state being able to run it. Secondly, now leaving it open, so and failing to bring in credible bidders on table. Once the bidders walk away, the word spreads. Now, how would you actually gain confidence of investors again? So the damage is much deeper, than what we can think. Then, again, what I said, that the lack of clarity among politicians. Politicians basically are, even provinces I hear now are bidding PIA. Now, what kind of privatization is that one state organ sells an asset to another state organ? So there is absolutely lack of clarity that why you are doing it, who you need to sell. If it is loss making, you are not going to make money. So the only objective, come give it to competent people who can revive it. So I think all these points have combined and make this process, unfortunately, sadly, a laughing stock. Multiple reasons. If I'm a bidder, right, I go with an objective. I want transparent assessment of the bid, which the seller puts on table. Okay. So if I have disputes that needs to be resolved before we go for bidding. So there is, a part of communication where I think bidders were uncomfortable. Second part was that, they disagreed on states' insistence on keeping shareholding and keeping some loss-making routes, as part of the deal, or even keeping employees. Because if you are the bidder, you need to restructure the whole deal. You need, total control. So the control, I think, is the second question. There is a wider question. I think now the investors are very worried on commitments on the government, that will the government be able to hold on to these commitments. We have seen in the dealings the way it has been done with independent power producers. So bidders basically saw that if government can backtrack on their sovereign guarantees. So government, what is the guarantee, what they are telling us about debt and assets and handing over, will that happen? I am also of the opinion that is a very authority place, as a regulator. So weak regulation. So a variety of problems came, but mostly because they were negotiating or having a dialogue with areas and a body which did not know what they were doing. Commission basically failed to inspire confidence. That's where bidders walked out. Because if the body was competent, they were putting right numbers, they were putting an honest deal, they were actually communicating that government is standing behind them. If I am the bidder, I would, not walk out. So I think Pakistan needs to reflect very carefully that if this deal has gone wrong, what is the repercussions, how to do the damage control, and basically take some action on people who have spoiled the deal, so that, people get a sense that the state is serious. My feeling is that deep down within the coalition partners, there are differences on privatization. Because, one party very clearly has been pro-nationalization or pro-state, industry for a long time. So in terms of consensus, I wish they had done the same, vigil and commitment the way they went for the constitutional amendment behind this deal. Because this is a deal which is extremely critical to put Pakistan on some kind of a map that we are serious about resolving the loss-making SOEs questions, or SOEs question as a whole. So I think Pakistan needs to put a very clear statement at the highest level that what are our economic priorities? Is government standing behind it? Are we insulating it from bureaucracy and passing it on to technical experts to handle it? Now, these are the things which might restore the confidence again. I spoke to Malaysia's, the then Prime Minister Mahathir Mohamad a few years back about his way of handling public sector enterprise. And he told me that first he made a company and then passed on assets from government to that company. But he said, I made a mistake because I put same bureaucrats in that company who were part of the problem. So then he said, I removed them and I passed it on to totally independent people. Privatization was not the question. The question was either to restructure or to sell off or to create joint ventures. But that is the expert's advice, that what to do with this asset, rather than in desperation getting rid of an asset to show that you are doing something. I think we need a lot more clarity in future, unfortunately. PIA is PIAC. PIA Corporation is the holding company, which is listed on the Karachi Stock Exchange. Then PIA has multiple operations. Airline is one of those. PIA owns hotels, that's another operation. PIA has ground services. They would have catering services. So they have, holding company has several entities underneath. So they were only selling the assets of the airline, which is, part of the holding company. And that might again be a question, if I'm a bidder, that, all these businesses have assets and value. Why you are only giving us one operation while everything, catering and ground handling, complements each other. So my again opening up, if it was a listed company, they could have actually gone to stock market and sold their share. Why go through a hassle paying, almost, I'm told 10 to 20 billion rupees to consultants? And then the consultants could not really come up with a proposition which inspired investor confidence. And then negotiators, the way they were negotiating on television, it looked like as I was sitting, in a vegetable market and negotiating for something. Now you need to have, very professional understanding, which bureaucracy does not have. And I think that is a moment to very carefully review and make changes. Otherwise, for your next bidding, if you are selling more assets, nobody will come forward. If I were to make I've been part of the privatization committee of the cabinet. Time and again, I feared that people did not understand why they were privatizing. It's not about money. It is a concept that state needs to delegate these commercial businesses to private market. So there's a lot of communication gap, which I see in this whole deal and not handled professionally, I'm afraid.